Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got a video covering the changes that occurred to the American Tier 10 Premium Light Tank, the Vigilante T249 Black Edition. Now if you do like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, as it really does help out the channel. And yes, they nerfed the Vigilante, which has been an absolute pest at Tier 10 since it came out on Black Friday, or around Black Friday generally. And to be honest, they missed the boat with the nerfs. Completely missed the boat with the changes. This tank really needed to be reworked. It didn't just need a nerf, it needed to be reworked, because it genuinely, it's broken. Generally and genuinely. English, it's hard, okay? It's a broken tank. It wasn't just the clip potential that was overpowered, because the clip potential was overpowered, but the thing that stops the tank in general from being overpowered, that was in 70 to 80% of situations, the tank was fairly useless, because you couldn't pen anything. You only have 75mm of penetration, and in quite a few matchups that I had in this tank at tier 10, you'd end up going against lots of heavily armoured vehicles where you sit there going, I actually can't pen that. Full of i7s, Type 5s, mouses, that sort of thing. You sit there going, I can't pen that unless I can shoot down on the engine deck. And how often does that actually let you do that, right? And so that stopped the tank being completely overpowered, is the fact that you just are useless, which is part of the reason it's broken, because of the fact that a tank should be able to be capable of doing stuff in all situations if it can work it to its advantage, and because of the low penetration that the Vigilante has, it just couldn't do that. But it was an extremely toxic broken vehicle, because the tanks it could pen, it deletes instantly. And I think it's about 2.6 seconds from unleashing the shells with the clip that it's got now is how it will do 3,250 damage with how it has now been nerfed down to, which is still absolutely mental, and means that basically the nerfs missed the boat. If it faces any lightly armoured vehicle, like a Leopard, MX-30B, any kind of light tank, any kind of lightly armoured tank destroyer, like a Gorilla or a Tyran, which we're not going to cry about that one, but a Gorilla or a Tyran, or RB on RTs it RB locks on, it RTs, it fires, it deletes, and there is very little room for reply. Now, some of the changes, great. It doesn't make sense that some of them were like that anyway, and some of the changes are a bit iffy. So, what did they change on this vehicle? Well, as you can see with the Vigilante, they reduced the clip size from 192 to 130, which is a good change, to be fair. 192 was way too much. It had way too much potential in that clip, so that is fantastic. That was one of the OP bits about it, is how many rounds it had, and the potential of the clip being over 4 to 5k, right? Which is insane. They changed the moving concealment factor, reduced it from 0.73 to 0.28, thereby reducing its ability to retain concealment while moving, which is a change that doesn't make sense to me because it's a light tank, and I know that it will be said that there's light tanks in the game that have worse on the move concealment than their still concealment, but pretty much all of those are below tier 4, or tier 4 and below. Maybe 1 or 2 at tier 5. But realistically, they're just more like tanks of the era that were probably more medium tanky at that time in terms of the time period they happened, right? And were expected to fight other vehicles or be infantry vehicles. This is tier 10, where pretty much from tier 5 up, pretty much nearly every single light tank has the same concealment while on the move as stationary. So to change that sort of philosophy just for this vehicle just doesn't make sense to me. For me, I wouldn't have done that, but there we go. The terrain resistances being reduced is fine. That means it is a lot more sluggish over different terrain types. But to be honest, the terrain resistances are still amazing, which means that they don't hold the tank back whatsoever. So it barely feels that sort of difference anyway. It's just a nothing change, realistically. They adjusted the armour model so that the ammo drum and receiver on the side now take health damage instead of being a part of the gun module. Fantastic. That is something that needed to happen, because that is how many people shot this tank and didn't do anything, or got ricochets, or just had their shell absorbed, because it was part of the gun module, so you couldn't do damage to it by shooting it, kind of like shooting the turret on a Malo, which is why so many people got stupid bounces on this vehicle. And the one thing that has changed with this vehicle for that, with the ammo drum being like that, is that it gets ammo racked a hell of a lot more. And I've experienced that quite a lot. I've had the head pop a lot on this vehicle when I've been playing it to try and get some replays to show you this tank and the fact that it's still broken. So that is a good change. The camouflage factor when shooting decreased from 0.255 to 0.12, thereby making the tank more visible when firing, is fantastic as well. And having played that with the live changes, basically as soon as you pull the trigger, you're going to get spotted firing, which is fine, because that means the moment you start firing, you are going to be vulnerable, but you're still going to be able to do a load of damage. So, sure, fine. And the shell ricochet angle reduced from 90 degrees to 70 degrees, increasing chance of shells bouncing on impact. Which means, yeah, because of the way that the shells will hit the armor, it means that more shells will ricochet, meaning you don't pen quite as many of the shells out of the clip, because they hit armor and just ricochet like they wouldn't have before. But yeah, the one thing that really needed to be addressed was the time to kill on this vehicle. The time to kill is way too good, and that is why it was toxic. Which is why I say this tank needed a full rework, because the fact is its time to kill with it was what its toxic nature was, and any tank that this thing locked onto and went after, it just insta-deleted, and they had no chance to come back to it, and just, yeah, that was the end of your game, which was super frustrating to play against. But then playing the tank, which is another part of why it's broken, is the fact that you just struggle to do anything in certain matchups, because the matchups are just terrible for you. And the one or two lightly armoured vehicles you might come against in that matchup die before you get any chance to shoot them. And then you sit there going, oh, well, what am I going to do now? I can barely pen anything. Yes, I've got bleed-through mechanic, but the bleed-through mechanic is something that I'd remove, because I just don't think it's a very good mechanic, because any type of tank that actually has a lot of armor sits there going, ha, I've got 200 HP, I've got armor, you're not going to pen me. Oh, it just did bleed through mechanic damage and I'm dead, because it didn't even pen me, it just did bleed through and did 1s and 2s, which again is a bit frustrating, but there we go. If you want a refund for this vehicle, as you can see in this article, if you purchase the Vigilante T249 Black Edition for gold, you may request a refund by filing a support ticket within 30 calendar days from the 25th of February. So from the 25th, you'll have 30 days to be able to secure a refund, and you click on this filing a support ticket from this article and it will take you to where you need to go. You will get the exact amount of gold that you paid for this tank back. So I think for me it was like 9,000 something gold. I'd get 9,000 something gold back if I refunded it. But yeah, the tank needed a rework. So what would I do to this vehicle? Let's have a quick look at what it's like now, and then what I would propose. Now, like, what I'm going to say for these changes is this is just stuff that I've plucked it out the air to go, that sounds like it could be an interesting change to check out. Am I saying that this is exactly what this tank needs? No. This is just my opinion of something that could be a good idea, but it could also be terrible in practice, right? It's just something that could be changed. Many of you might have ideas of how to change this tank to make it more fun to play, but at the same time balanced to play against, so that you can get the best of both worlds. And we're not looking to just say straight up remove it, we're just looking to make it so that it's somewhat usable as a tank and you can enjoy playing it, but at the same time, if you see one, you're not going, oh no, it's a Vigilante, dead. Right? That's what we're looking for. So currently, it's got a 130 clip with 25 HP per shot, which is a 3,250 clip potential, which is still an insane amount for it to do in 2.6 seconds. So it will do 3,250 clip potential in 2.6 seconds. That's if it pens, because like I say, the penetration is terrible at 75. It's got a 0.02 intra-clip reload, which is why you get that 2.6 second unload speed. Now, naturally, before, it was more like 4.8k in clip potential, and it took a bit longer to unload, but that meant that it could actually, instead of clipping out 2 light tanks like it could here, it could clip out 3, which was just stupid. At the minute, the toxic brokenness of the tank is still the fact that it can just delete a tank in 2.6 seconds. It comes against a 13105, for example. That 13105 goes, hi friend, oh I'm dead, after firing one shot at it, which is pure pain. So the changes that I'm saying for it is clip the clip, keep the clip. English is hard, people, okay? Keep that clip at 130. Reduce the damage to 9 HP per shot on the standard round. 1,170 clip potential is what it has there, which is somewhere in the region similar to a 13105. So I'm trying to look at it as if it's, you know, playing against a fairly average light tank at its own tier. And instead of having 0.02 intraclip, you've got a 0.04 intraclip, which means the tank still goes, but it unloads that 1,170 clip potential in 5.2 seconds, which again is a fairly similar amount of time to what the 13105 will unload its clip potential of around the same amount. In and around that same amount is what I'm trying to say. It's not exact same, but you get my point. Which is a lot more manageable, and it will still do quite a bit of damage, but it's no more than another tank at its own tier could do. Or you could do it at 0.05, which is a 6.5 second intra clip, but I feel like that is a bit of an overkill, to be fair. You make the penetration 130. Why 130? Because that will pen a lot more sides of tanks it will face. It won't go through the fronts of a lot of the vehicles at tier 10, which is why we do it, except for the really lightly armoured vehicles. But it'll go through a lot more of the sides and the rears of vehicles, and again, it still won't clip them out in one clip. And then you give it 210 prem, so that it can go through pretty much everything it will face in some way or form. But to combat that fact that it can now do that, it's 6 HP per shot, which is a 780 clip. So you sacrifice the damage you can do, and the fact that you're only doing 780 damage in 5.2 seconds, which is really not that good, but it means you can at least do something. I'd reduce the accuracy during movement to 4 meters, because currently with the build that I run, you actually get it down to 1.44, which is fantastic. Mixed in with the 0.55 inch clip that it's got currently is incredible. It means the gun is amazing at shooting on the move as well as shooting from stationary, which is to combat the YOLO capacity of the vehicle, so it can't just go RBRT, lock on, delete something instantly because the accuracy is amazing. Make the accuracy during rotation and movement worse so the aim circle becomes large while it's moving. And if it wants to be able to do the damage, it has to find a nice position that's flanked and then unload. And then make the camo during movement the same as stationary so that we keep with the camouflage doctrine of light tanks, especially at tier 10. But that's just what I'd suggest possibly looking at to try and see if you could make this tank not toxic and somewhat balanced to somewhat better, right? To play as a tank so that you're not playing the tank feeling like you're completely useless, but to be able to play against the tank and not just see that tank go, oh no, dead. That's what we're aiming for. Somewhat balanced, somewhat usable, and then also somewhat less toxic. It's just, like I say, don't take that as gospel. Don't take that as a thing of, oh, we should do that because I've said that, or that's stupid. That's just my idea. You guys, like I say, will have lots of ideas about what might make this tank more balanced. What I'd always suggest is go make a feedback thread on Discord, as they do read those. So go and make a feedback thread on that, and then one feedback thread, and then put your own ideas in that feedback thread so that we could try and make this tank not toxic to play against, but still a usable tank, right? So yeah, that's what I'd put out. Like I say, what we're going to do now is show you some clips of the tank of why it's still broken and the stupidness of the tank able to just go, oh, hello, light tank, delete. Or hello, TD, delete. And then just show you some general gameplay of the vehicle as it stands currently with the changes and the nerfs that have come into play. Like I say, I really do feel like the nerfs have just completely missed the boat, sadly. And I really hope that they will look at reworking this in the future. But since they've already nerfed it once, I get that feeling that we're probably just never going to see it nerfed again, and this is exactly how it will stay. And especially since the way that it's nerfed now, it means it's still not a very good tank. It's not that great of a light tank. It just has that toxic nature of going, hello, light tank, delete, which is really a bad point. So what I'm going to do now is send you into the replays, where you can see some of the clips of what I'm talking about and why I think it's a broken tank, and then watch some of the general gameplay of the vehicle. So as always, everybody, I will see you in those replays. So just these clips alone in the Vigilante, just these 3 clips, are why this tank is so broken. Because Mr. Aguila, we're in the nerf state of the Vigilante. Hello. Oh, what's that? You don't like being alive? Oh, well, let me sort that out for you. Did that guy have fun? No, he was gone in the blink of an eye. Just deleted. Mr. Kunzerpanzer, how you doing, my son? Well, let me put some shots in. Okay, we've got to readjust, and good night. 1,600 damage in about 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds. It is absolutely mental, and this is why this tank is toxic. So we RBRT, I'm really hoping to track him. Why? So I can get up behind him and absolutely do this. Now, he takes a hit from Artie, but we did 1,500 damage in the blink of an eye. There was nothing that STRV-103B could do. we just murdered him. Same as the Kunzerpanzer, same as the Agila. The moment the first shell hit them, they were already dead. Because there was just nothing that could be done about that. Which is why this tank is so toxic. And why the nerfs that they've done to this vehicle just completely missed the boat. And I mean, in the article itself, they said these adjustments address concerns raised by our players regarding the tank's impact on match balance and gameplay experience. The changes aim to ensure the Vigilante aligns more closely with other vehicles in its tier, creating a fairer, more enjoyable experience for all players. And I don't really feel that they did address the concerns, to be perfectly honest, as a lot of the concerns and the biggest concern raised was just how fast this tank nukes people. And I feel like that was just completely ignored with the way that these nerfs have come about, which is just a sad, sad time for us with this T249, as it is just utterly mental. So we're trying to get shots at this T249 here. That is some dreadful shooting from us, but we did take half of his hit points. He also took half of our hit points by locking on and hitting us while he was on the move. But there we go. And that's why I say about the changes for the vehicle, why I would also change some of the actions during movement and rotation, right? So that it's a lot harder for someone who's in a Vigilante to do what that guy just did to us, where he just locked on, spammed a load of shots and hit us with a lot of them. And the only reason we didn't lose any more hit points is because we managed to actually repair our tracks and get moving and get away from his shots. So we're going to move down the B line here in the T249 so that we can get somewhere towards their 9-0, maybe get some shots into the people that are currently at D67, because we can catch them unawares. Now, this is a bad aim moment. We should aim for the side of that Emil-2's turret, because we can actually pen the side of the Emil-2's turret there with our gun. But sadly, we just had a potato brain moment, and we actually aimed low into the tracks where we couldn't actually pen that guy. And we managed to do, well, we actually penned him a couple of times, but not with every single round. Mostly we did a lot of shots with the bleed-through mechanic, and we still did a good, what, 600-700 damage, and that's because some shells did pen, some shells didn't. So we see the Grill 15, right? I really want to get rid of the T249 Black if I can, but the Grill 15 is also a target, as, once again, they've not affected the ability of this tank to just nuke something. So hello, Mr. Grill 15, RBRT, lock on, and nuke. Because he was on the move and I didn't aim it properly, we actually missed a lot of shots there because the shots went behind that Grill 15. But we still took 1,700 of his hit points in 2.5 seconds. And if I'd aimed properly, we would have killed him. Even easier. And we're up to 3,000 damage. We're going to wait for the reload now and then look for the next target. Because that's the thing with this Vigilante. Is a lot of the time you're not just thinking about scouting. You're just thinking, okay, what's the next target? What's the next tank that I want to go in and delete? The Centauro was in my thinking, but the Centauro has died. Next, it's the Skoda T50. So I see the T249 Black. I lock on and I think, nah, I'm not really going to hit that guy on the move like this. The heavy tank, which was the Type 5, gets shut down. So I'm going to chase after the Grill 15, or see if I can get into a position to maybe go after the Skoda T50 as well, that is around this corner, or look at these medium tanks. So I'm just watching around the corner to see what they're doing, and they are AVREs, which means I am going to struggle to pen them if I don't get their rear. And they were currently looking the way I was coming, so I was like, nope, not doing that. I'll let my team get after around the corner, and if they're going to take the hit or run away, that's what's going to happen. So we are now going to put around the corner with the AVRE gun. It's like, hello, Mr. Skoda T50, you've made mistakes. Oh, you're dead. Against any other tank, say if we were in a 13-105, for example, I could have put a shot into his tracks, he'd have been able to repair and get back around that corner before I'd put any more shots in. Not with this tank. I tracked him with the first shot and absolutely deleted all of his hit points. We're up to 4.5k damage, just like that. And what that happened to that Skoda T50, again, is one of the reasons that this tank is just so damn broken, because there was nothing he could have done. He put around the corner to try and get surprise shots into our heavies and mediums. I said, surprise, mother trucker, and just deleted all of his hit points in 2 seconds. There was nothing he could have done. So we've seen the base. We're going to go back and try and defend the base, and my reactions are too slow as that Grill 15 ended up getting spotted, and the Grill 15 got his revenge. And we finished the game with the victory, the 1 kill, the 4.5k damage, 1,114 assistance. Sorry, 1,114 base XP. There we go, it wasn't assistance. 1,114 base XP, because we didn't get any assistance, but then it's Ghost Town. That doesn't happen quite that much. And we're on to the second replay. And this second replay, we're here on this map, which is Lakeville. And on Lakeville, what I'm going to do with this vehicle is try and go and spot the middle 4 line. And if I can spot anything that's lightly armoured that goes along the 4 line, we can try and delete it, and then they will not spot my team as they cross into the town. And then see if we can find anything that is in the town that's isolated to clip out. Now, this tank has 228 metres of steel concealment, and if we're on the move, we have 242 metres of on-the-move concealment. And that's because I do run silent driving on this vehicle now to reduce the effect of movement on my camo. And that's why we get lit up there by whatever is in the middle, because our on-the-move concealment was worse than our standard concealment. If it was the same there, we probably would not have been lit up. But we do have 0.3 accuracy with the gun that with the build that we're running on this vehicle, which means that this gun is actually really accurate, and with 1.44 accuracy during movement and 0.55 accuracy during rotation, this gun, as you can see, the aim circle just doesn't bloom out that much. And you've got 1.75 second aim time, which means that the gun does aim in supremely quickly as well. So there's the Barask. There was the Barask. Barask got spotted, and before he could do anything, gone. 1250 damage in, well, it was less than 2 seconds, that was, because we did that damage in that less than 2 seconds. But yeah, one of the things that does happen with this vehicle, as you've seen in the clip with the Gila, and the moment we fired there on the Barask, as soon as you pull the trigger and it starts spooling, you don't even have to have fired a shot. It's just the moment that the gun starts spooling up, you will get spotted, because the camo just becomes absolutely tragic. So be careful of that when you are getting stationary in this vehicle, as, yeah, this is why I don't fire here, because SU-122-54, unless I get his rear, I cannot pen that. Can't do anything to him whatsoever. And he's got the kind of camo that he could actually outspot me if he wants to, as long as he doesn't fire. So we're going to come up here. We've seen the Progetto 65. I can clip that in the side. Poor driving. I can't really pen it in the front. He could kill me at this point, but we get lucky he bounces. And good night, Mr. Progetto 65. Now, we lost most of our hit points in that engagement because my driving was trash. But we managed to maneuver ourselves and get a bit lucky that we got around him and then just deleted him. And that Progetto was dead. There was, again, he tried everything he could to stop me doing that. He got me stuck to his front, but I still managed to get around him and get rid of him anyway, which is pain. Mr. Grill 15, we see you. That is what the dream vehicle. We get a couple of shots in, still got half a clip left, RBRT on, and good night, Mr. Grill 15. Up to 4.3k damage, and now just waiting for the clip to reload so that we can go again. And this is the kind of map that it is very awkward for the Vigilante, because it's a bit corridory, and that means we really have to get people's sides and rears to be able to actually pen them and do damage. But those sorts of opportunities don't come around all that often. It's usually when you manage to catch people out isolated, like that Progetto 65. So we're going to make a mistake, and that is we're going to go after this T100 LT, which we do track and pen. Sadly, my E4 point blank misses him. And that means that even though we get a couple of shots in there, he's still coming after us. He can kill us with one shot, and we cannot get away from this man because he's just as quick as we are. We're trying our best, trying to lead him back to my E4 in the hope that the E4 will shut him down. But sadly for me, good night, Mr. T249 Vigilante. And now that is one of the tanks that we will struggle with in this tank now, especially with the ricochet angle change, because of the sloping on the angle of that armor. It will mean we'll ricochet a lot more shots off that tank, which will make it far more awkward for this tank to be able to pen it. And we finished that game with 1207 base XP with the 4.3k damage. Now we're on to the third replay featuring the Vigilante. And this one, again, we're on Ghost Town, which is a decent map for this vehicle because we can just pop up round corners and go, hi friend, delete, and then get away with it. It can do that quite easily. There's positions we can take, we can set up to then assess the battlefield and see what is going on. So we're going to go down to the corner at J9, J0 for the same reason that we went to the opposite corner at AB2 in the other game on Ghost Town, and that's because we can look down the JK line, spot people out, and then see if we can find a way to get shots into them. So this poor Leopard 1 gets spotted. He goes, oh no, we RBRT lock on, and we do about 1600 damage to him with the help of the other T249 to shut him down, and that was with just shooting on the move, RBRT. Good night, Mr. Leopard. All he'd done was make a mistake of pushing a little bit too aggressively down this line. Now, he probably still would have blown up anyway, because look how many of our team are here. But there's a lot more he probably could have done to get away from people shooting than us just going, yep, clip, dead. right, which is just the pain. So we're going to move up to see if we can find a different angle at the enemy vehicles. We see the Kramvarn. Now again, the Kramvarn, I can't really pen that easily in the side, but if I get round the rear or see the side of the turret, I should be able to go through that. So we get spotted by the Kramvarn, and we're just trying to give ourselves a better angle, because if we get a better angle on the side of the Kramvarn, we should be able to at least try and go through the side here. So with the other T249, we start putting shots through the side of the Kramvarn, and we end up dishing out nearly 1,000 damage to that Kramvarn, with the other T249 Black deleting a load of his hit points too. We're up to 2.5k damage with 686 assistance damage. Looking for the possible shots into the GWE 100, because it'd be great to get rid of that RT as always, because we love bacon round here, even in our Vigilante. And again, we can just toxically just delete the guy if he gives us the right shot. So we're just watching for him to turn. He takes a hit from the dude behind me. There's the shot we want, as we put an extra 500 damage, nearly 600 damage there into the GWE E100, as he was trying to deal with everyone else. Somehow we get a couple of pens there into the sharpshooter, putting us up to 3.5k damage. I'm not quite sure how I pen that guy so easily at this distance, but there we go. The reload's now in, and I see the big glut of tanks at F4. I don't really want to go for those guys, because that'll be my death quite quickly if I'm not careful. So I want to go after the light tank and the Object 268 version 5, the TD, that are attacking my Valor, because if I can help my Valor out and get him a bit safer, then that's what we want to do. We want to try and help our teammates. 3.5k damage with 1,000 assistance is a good game so far for the Vigilante, and if I can get in to save this guy. So we get in, put a few shots into the tusk, delete him, get up behind the 268 version 5, because if we aim low, we should be able to pen it. And we do, and we utterly delete the 268 version 5, because if we aimed low on his rear there, we had enough penetration to pen that man. And we're up to 4.4k damage with 1,164 assistance. And the next target is possibly the medium tank that was sitting at C4, as they could be quite alone. And that's just what this tank thrives on, is tanks that get caught out in the open, all on the Todd. It just comes in and assassinates them if it can pen them. And that's the problem, obviously, with this vehicle, is there are so many tanks that you sit there going, I should be able to... Oh, I can't pen that. Ah, right. That's pain. I can't do anything about that tank. But when you do come against a tank like that Leopard PTA, like any of the tanks you've seen so far, you do just eviscerate them. They are gone before they can blink, and there is not much they could do about it, which is why it's just such a toxic vehicle to play against. And it's super frustrating to play against as well, because it's one of those things that makes you think, do I want to take one of those light tanks out? Do I want to take an EBR 105 out? Do I want to take a Manticore out when this thing is roaming the battlefield? And it will probably be playing in a similar location to where I'm going to be going, because it wants to be spotting as well as deleting, and yeah, he will spot me, RBRT me, and get me out of the game. Because the thing is, what a lot of people do when they play this vehicle as well, is naturally they'll see you as a light tank and go, ooh, lunch, and just rush in and just RBRT and clip you out. And they'll probably die for it as well, because a lot of them do that. They will manage to clip something out for full health, and then die because they rush into the enemy head first, because they just saw the chance to delete something and they went for it, did it, ruined your game, and then died, which is annoying. We're on to the fourth and final replay of this video, and we are now on Great Wall, which again isn't the best map in the universe for the vehicle, because there's a lot of corridors where you could end up coming face to face with vehicles that you can't pen, but there is opportunities where you could catch people out by surprise, which is what we're going for here in the Vigilante. We can try and push the G4-5 location and get into a position where we can shoot something in the side like this Rheinmetall Panzerwagen. So he's not seeing us because our camo is pretty decent. We come over, RBRT, and we take a hit there because the Panzerwagen managed to snap onto us and hit us, but we deleted all of his hit points. We pop the reload and then try and get out before this batch at 25T notices us to start shooting us. He ends up missing his shot, and we just get away with it. We've done 1,308 damage, and we've eliminated one of the enemy light tanks just like that, and got away with only one shot of damage, or taking one shot of damage, I should say. Which is just part of the problem. Like, if I was in a 13105, again, I'm always going to use the 3105 as an example, because it's got an auto loader, which obviously this thing has an autocannon, but because of the way it works in terms of its clip, a comparison would be a 3105 in terms of how it outputs its damage as a light tank. I'd have put a shot into that Rheinmetall Panzerwagen, and he probably could have managed to pull back just in time to avoid my second shell, or I'd have got the second shell in. But he would have still been in the game. This one, he tried to pull back, and he just couldn't get away from me because I fired so quick. And because this tank also puts out so much damage so fast, and so many shells hit the enemy vehicles, if you hit the tracks, you tend to just blow the tracks off. They repair it, but because so many rounds are hitting the tank, before they can get away, the tracks are blown off again, which is a big problem when you're playing against it. So we go for some shots into the machine here. We do get 1 or 2 into that machine as he was crossing, but he did get unspotted, and thus he got away. Hoping to get... I should have waited there before popping the reload, because I could actually kill the Chow with the bleed-through damage, but I decided to get out of that position while I am reloading, so that the Chow just can't shoot us and finish us off, because we don't... Well, he could if he conceivably could finish us off with 1 shot. So we're going to push up through the middle, and we see the Tyran, and the Tyran is the obvious target. We can just get a Tyran, see his side, and delete. So we RBRT on, same play as we did against the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen. My driving is absolutely wonderful, but it doesn't matter, as Mr. Tyran goes bye-bye. And we delete the Soviet Tier 10 Premium Tank Destroyer there in the blink of an eye once again. Like I say, it's just the toxic nature of this vehicle where it just does that. I mean, the Centauro just got deleted by the other T249, right? Which, yeah. It's just what this tank does, and it's why it's so frustrating to play against. And I mean, I hate making videos like this where I just have to complain about a vehicle, but this is just one of those tanks that you just have to do it. And the way it's going to be is the same as it is with any other sort of toxic, ridiculous tank, is that this is the last time you're going to see this tank on the channel, just like the AVRE. This is the last time you're going to see this tank on the channel, unless it gets reworked again. Because I'm not going to feature it, because every time you feature this vehicle on something like YouTube and you show how broken it is, the more and more people are going to go, oh, I really want to buy that. And then you're just advertising the vehicle at that point, right? So I don't like making videos like this. They're boring to me to make, but there we go. It has to be done from time to time, especially with a tank that's as stupid as this. Even after the nerfs. But like I say, the nerfs were moot point. They just didn't touch what was the actual problem with this vehicle whatsoever. So, we're up to 4.5k damage with 138 assistance. We see the Grill 15. Grill 15, naturally, it's what this tank wants to snack on. He's looking the opposite way because he's been closed down by the heavy tanks. Good night, Mr. Grill 15. Get out of the game. Just like that. There's 3 tanks left. There's the Machine, the Ruthless, and the Artillery. Now, we know where the Artillery probably is. In their base. We know where the Machine last was. He was going up the 0 line. So there's a possibility he's up there. As for the Ruthless, not really any idea where that guy is. And that guy is going to be a royal pain for me to deal with, because I can't really pen a Ruthless with 75 pen. So all I'm going to do is try and be a distraction if I can for my team, and try and get him to turn so that it's easier for my team to kill him. Because that's about all I can do without just using the bleed-through mechanic. So we see the GW Tiger and the Ruthless. Now I'm thinking, can I get a shot at this GW Tiger without the Ruthless Singers? And I can't. But the Ruthless ends up deleting our other T249 Black. You can see I'm thinking, can I pen this guy if I get round to his rear? Well, the spaced armor on the back basically means I can't. I go for the tracks so I can track and pen the... Well, track the Ruthless and keep him pinned there so he can't get his gun round on us. And our teammates end up deleting the Tyran there to get rid of that 183mm gun. We're up to 5.8k damage, 186 assistance, the 4 kills, and there's 1 tank left on my team. It's the Machine who is at the top, and I'm seeing the TD closing down the Machine. And at this point, I think, there's a very unlikely chance of me getting there to be able to get this Machine, but we'll try anyway. And to be honest, as you've seen in these replays, the ground resistance change, which is supposed to affect the mobility of this thing, really hasn't changed it whatsoever, because the ground resistances are so good already, and then with the nerf, they're still very good. So this thing still does not struggle with its top speed whatsoever. But there we go, we just RBRT lock onto the Machine. We end up tracking him with one of the shots that hit him, which spun him round, and we penned him a couple of times to finish him off. And finished the game with 5 kills, 6,093 damage, 186 assistance. The first class, the high caliber, was 1,649 base XP, which is a good game for the T249 Vigilante there. And like I say, the tank isn't actually that good in terms of the way it can do damage. There's so many situations where this tank is just pure poo because it can't do anything. But those situations like you've seen in this video are why this tank is just so toxic, because it just goes, oh, hello, light tank, delete, which is a real issue for the general population at tier 10 of light tanks. But there we go. That's the Vigilante. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success.